Level 1. The chopper. You are 22 years old. You are sitting strapped into a vibrating, deafeningly loud Sikorsky S-92 helicopter, flying 200 miles over the dark, turbulent waters of the Gulf of Mexico. You are wearing a heavy, bright orange survival suit designed to keep you from instantly freezing to death if the helicopter goes down. You have your entire life packed into a single, soft-sided duffel bag. Prior to this, you worked in a warehouse in East Texas. Today, you are leaving the terrestrial world entirely to work on a massive, floating island of steel that drills miles into the Earth's crust to extract highly pressurized hydrocarbons. You look out the scratched acrylic window. For the first hour, there is nothing but an endless expanse of gray ocean. The sheer scale of your isolation begins to terrifyingly manifest. If you have a medical emergency, if you make a catastrophic mistake, there is no ambulance. There is no fire department. You are completely and utterly on your own. Suddenly, the rig emerges from the horizon. It does not look like a ship. It is a semi-submersible drilling platform, an incredibly massive hulking matrix of steel girders, cranes, and pipes rising 200 feet out of the ocean. The helicopter banks sharply and begins a terrifyingly steep descent toward a tiny green helipad cantilevered precariously over the open water. The wind shear throwing the aircraft around is violently aggressive. You land with a heavy structural thud that reverberates through your spine. You unbuckle, grab your bag, and step out into the hurricane-force downdraft of the rotor blades. The smell hits you instantly. A heavy, suffocating mixture of diesel exhaust, salt air, rust, and specialized drilling mud. The noise is absolute, a constant mechanical roar that never ever stops. You are quickly corralled into a steel stairwell by a man in a hard hat yelling incomprehensible instructions. You have officially arrived in the most alien, hostile industrial environment on the planet. Level 2. The Roustabout. You start at the absolute bottom of the offshore hierarchy. You are a roustabout. Your job title implies general labor, but the reality is pure, unadulterated physical punishment. Your 12-hour shift consists of cleaning, painting, scraping rust, and manually moving incredibly heavy objects across pitching, slippery steel decks. It is mid-August. The ambient temperature is 104 degrees. The humidity is 98%. You are wearing a heavy, flame-retardant coverall, steel-toed boots, safety glasses, impact gloves, and a hard hat. The sweat pours off your body so fast your boots audibly squish when you walk. You are tasked with pressure washing the drilling mud off the main deck near the blowout preventer. The mud is not dirt. It is a heavy, synthetic, oil-based chemical fluid used to lubricate the drill bit miles beneath the sea floor. It is incredibly slick. Walking on a steel grating covered in drilling mud while the entire rig pitches slightly with the ocean swell requires massive, exhaustive core strength. The high-pressure hose violently kicks back against your exhausted arms. You work 14 days straight, 12 hours a day, without a single day off. You do not see the sun set or rise if your shift aligns poorly. You sleep in a cramped, 4-man bunk room directly above one of the massive diesel generators. The vibration of the generator physically shakes your mattress, migrating your body toward the wall while you try to sleep. You learn very quickly that the offshore world does not care about your ego or your fatigue. If you complain, if you move too slowly, the veteran roughnecks will mock you relentlessly, ostracize you, and eventually have you sent on the next helicopter back to land. You earn your place purely through an aggressive, silent willingness to endure pain. You scrape rust for an entire year until your hands are heavily calloused and your back is constantly sore, desperately waiting for a promotion to the drill floor. Level 3. The Roughneck. Year 2. You are promoted to the rig floor. You are officially a roughneck. You are no longer painting handrails. You are actively involved in the violent, terrifying process of making the hole. The drill floor is the beating heart of the platform. It is an incredibly dangerous, chaotic choreography of heavy machinery, spinning steel, and massive hydraulic power. Your entire job consists of connecting and disconnecting 30-foot sections of high-grade steel drill pipe, weighing over 1,000 pounds each, as they are lowered miles down into the wellbore. You operate hydraulic tongs, massive mechanical jaws suspended from heavy steel cables that swing across the deck. The driller engages the top drive. The massive drill string begins to rotate. The noise is absolutely deafening. You must communicate with the other roughnecks entirely through complex hand signals. You grab the swinging iron tongs. You must perfectly time your movements to align the incredibly heavy steel jaws around the spinning pipe. If your timing is off by half a second, the thousands of foot-pounds of torque will violently rip the iron tongs out of your hands, crushing your ribs or breaking your spine. The drill floor is a mathematically unforgiving environment. You routinely see men lose fingers to pinch points because they placed their hand on the wrong side of a massive steel collar for a fraction of a second. It is a night shift in December. A massive cold front is pushing through the Gulf. The rain is driving sideways. The steel deck is violently slick with synthetic mud and freezing rain. The platform is pitching 5 degrees in massive swells. You throw the heavy tongs onto the pipe. The driller applies the torque. A heavy steel retaining pin spontaneously shears under the extreme load. A heavy chain violently snaps, whipping across the drill floor faster than the speed of sound. You drop immediately to the steel deck. The heavy chain shatters the protective glass of the driller's cabin 2 feet above your head. You lie in the freezing mud, your heart pounding violently against your ribs. The driller immediately kills the power. The sudden silence on the floor is terrifying. You check your extremities. You are unharmed. You stand up, your knees trembling uncontrollably, and you immediately get back to work replacing the broken chain. You realize that out here, survival is a combination of constant vigilance and pure, blind luck. Level 4, the Derrickman Year 5. You are promoted to Derrickman. You trade the violent crush of the drill floor for a terrifying, solitary existence 90 feet straight up in the air. You work on the monkey board, a small, precarious steel platform attached near the top of the massive drilling derrick. You are responsible for physically guiding the top of the incredibly heavy stands of drill pipe as they are pulled out of the hole and stacked vertically in the derrick. You climb the vertical steel ladder at the beginning of your shift. You clip your heavily reinforced fall arrest harness onto a sliding cable. You look down. The roughnecks on the drill floor look like insects. The dark ocean surrounds the rig in every direction. The wind velocity 90 feet off the deck is exponentially higher. The massive steel derrick physically sways and groans in the wind. A 90-foot stand of drill pipe is pulled up from the floor by the massive traveling block. It is swaying violently. You must physically lean out over the absolute void, grab the heavy, greasy pipe, and muscle it into a complex array of steel storage fingers. The physical taxation on your upper body is extraordinary. Every time you pull a pipe, you are fighting gravity, momentum, and the wind. If you fail to latch the pipe securely, 1,000 pounds of steel will fall 90 feet directly onto the roughnecks scattered on the floor below, instantly killing them. You are working a grueling shift during a severe winter storm. The derrick is violently pitching. The rain is turning to ice on your gloves. A stand of pipe comes swinging aggressively toward you. You lunge to grab it. The heavy, oil-based mud coating the pipe causes your frozen grip to slip instantly. The pipe swings violently away from you, hitting the side of the derrick with a deafening metallic crash before rebounding directly back toward your chest. You cannot dodge it. You instinctively throw your arms up. The heavy pipe smashes into your forearms, knocking you completely off the monkey board. You plummet into the void. You fall 3 feet before your heavy fall arrest lanyard violently catches, jerking your harness with a bone-crushing impact. You dangle 90 feet in the freezing air, spinning wildly in the high winds, the rain lashing your face. Your forearms are deeply bruised, possibly fractured. You hang there for terrifying minutes while the crew lowers a bucket to retrieve you. When you finally reach the deck, you realize you have exhausted all your illusions of safety. The rig is actively trying to throw you into the ocean. Level 5, the Mud Year 7. Beyond catching pipe in the sky, the Derrickman holds a second, arguably more critical responsibility: managing the drilling fluid, universally known as mud. It is the absolute lifeblood of the drilling operation. The mud is not just dirt and water. It is a highly engineered, incredibly toxic chemical slurry. It serves a crucial purpose. The sheer hydrostatic weight of the heavy mud pumped down into the wellbore is the only thing physically preventing the massive, pressurized pockets of explosive gas trapped miles beneath the sea floor from blowing back up the pipe and obliterating the rig. You spend hours in the mud pit room, a hot, windowless, heavily ventilated steel cavern deep below the main deck. It is filled with massive, churning vats of caustic chemicals. You mix thousands of pounds of barite, an incredibly heavy mineral, into the mud to increase its weight. You mix caustic soda and polymers to adjust the viscosity. The environment is incredibly hostile. The dust from the chemical sacks fills the air, burning the back of your throat despite your heavy respirator. One afternoon, a high-pressure hose transferring synthetic drilling fluid catastrophically ruptures. The thick, incredibly slick, chemically aggressive mud completely coats the room. You are hit directly in the face and chest. Your safety goggles are coated. You are instantly blinded. The caustic soda in the mud immediately begins burning your skin. An overwhelming wave of panic hits you. The steel floor is so slick you cannot stand up. You crawl blindly through the chemical sludge, dragging yourself toward the heavy emergency shower handle by memory alone. You pull the heavy chain. The cold water blasts down, diluting the burning chemicals. You stand under the shower fully clothed for 30 minutes, shivering violently, your skin red and heavily irritated. You wash the toxicity from your body, but you cannot wash it from your lungs. You realize the slow, invisible chemical deterioration of your body is just as lethal as a falling pipe. It just takes longer to kill you. Level 6, the Driller Year 10. You reach the apex of the rig floor hierarchy. You are the driller. You no longer swing the heavy tongs or catch pipe in the swaying derrick. You sit inside an environmentally controlled, heavily reinforced glass box located above the drill floor, the cyber chair. You are essentially flying a massive subterranean spaceship. Your chair is surrounded by high-definition touchscreens displaying thousands of incredibly complex data points: weight on bit, pump pressure, rotational torque, rate of penetration, returning mud volume. Your hands rest on highly sensitive electronic joysticks. You control the entire drilling operation. The Roughnecks and the Derrickman move exclusively on your command, but the physical relief of sitting in a chair is instantly replaced by a massive, crushing psychological weight. You are controlling a massive diamond-studded drill bit grinding through solid rock 3 miles beneath the ocean floor. You cannot see it. You can only feel it through the data. You must maintain the perfect balance. If you apply too much weight to the bit, you will snap the incredibly expensive drill pipe. If you do not apply enough weight, the operation stalls, and the oil company loses millions of dollars a day. You stare at the screens for 12 unbroken hours. The sheer cognitive load is staggering. You are interpreting incredibly subtle variations in pump pressure to determine if the rock formation 3 miles below has miraculously changed from dense shale to porous sandstone. If you interpret the data incorrectly, you will not just break equipment. You are the last line of defense against the absolute worst nightmare in offshore drilling, the blowout. The physical labor is over, but the mental exhaustion is terminal. You leave the cyber chair after your shift with a violent, throbbing migraine, realizing that the ultimate heavy lifting on the rig is entirely neurological. Level 7, the kick year 14. The nightmare scenario materializes. It is 3:00 a.m. The rig is drilling an exploration well in extreme deep water. You are incredibly tired, finishing the final hour of your 12th consecutive night shift. You are staring at the return mud volume screen. The graph line begins to steadily climb. Your heart stops. This is the physiological terror you have trained for. This is a kick. The drill bit has unexpectedly intersected a highly pressurized pocket of methane gas in the geological formation. The massive pressure of the gas is significantly greater than the hydrostatic weight of your drilling mud. The explosive gas is actively forcing its way into the wellbore, violently displacing the mud, racing up the pipe toward the surface platform at terrifying speed. Kick. You scream into the PA system. We're taking a kick. Floor, clear the area. Your hand shoots instantly to the blowout preventer BOP control panel. The BOP is a massive, multi-million-dollar stack of hydraulic valves sitting on the ocean floor 2 miles below. It is the absolute last resort. You slam your palm down on the heavy red button. The hydraulic pipe rams are commanded to instantly close, physically crushing the heavy steel drill pipe flat to seal the well. You watch the pressure gauges, your entire body trembling violently. The silence in the cyber chair is deafening. If the preventer fails, or if the gas has already passed the valves, an incredibly massive column of explosive methane will violently erupt onto the rig floor and ignite on the hot engine exhausts, creating a catastrophic fireball that will entirely obliterate the platform. You have seen the terrifying documentary footage. You know exactly what happens next. 10 agonizing seconds pass. The return flow gauge slowly drops. The pressure stabilizes. The heavy hydraulic rams held. You collapse backward into the heavy cyber chair, breathing heavily. Sweat is pouring down your face. You just prevented the destruction of the rig and the deaths of 140 people by a margin of 15 seconds. The offshore company will eventually give you an award, but the near-death experience permanently alters your baseline anxiety. You will never sit in that chair completely relaxed again. Level 8, the tour year 18. You promote to tool pusher. You are officially management. You oversee the entire drilling operation, reporting directly to the offshore installation manager. Your salary is massive, pushing deeply into 6 figures. But the money is heavily blood-stained. The true cost of the offshore life is not physical danger. It is the absolute destruction of your terrestrial existence. You work an agonizing rotational schedule, 21 days on the rig, 21 days at home. This sounds appealing to civilians, but the reality is deeply alienating. You are sitting in the rig's satellite communications room. It is your daughter's 7th birthday. You form a delayed, static-filled video connection. You watch her blow out the candles on a cake in your suburban kitchen from a steel box in the middle of the ocean. The video feed freezes just as she smiles. You disconnect the call. The overwhelming, crushing wave of isolation hits you. You miss half of your life. You miss the recitals, the emergencies, the anniversaries. When you are home, your family walks on eggshells. You spend the first week trying to decompress from the massive adrenaline baseline of the rig. You spend the 3rd week filled with heavy dread, preparing to leave again. Your spouse essentially lives as a single parent for half the year. The divorce rate on the upper decks is staggering. You watch veteran supervisors receive devastating phone calls and walk onto the helipad utterly broken. You realize the offshore life essentially demands a sacrifice. You provide a massive, comfortable life for your family, but you forfeit the right to actually participate in it. Level 9, the Hurricane Year 22. The ultimate vulnerability of the offshore platform is its location. It cannot run. A massive Category 4 hurricane has unexpectedly shifted its highly destructive track in the Gulf of Mexico. It is heading directly for your platform. The massive evacuation protocols are initiated. You are the tool pusher. You are responsible for ensuring the well is safely suspended, and every piece of heavy equipment is rigidly secured before abandoning the facility. The weather is already catastrophically deteriorating. The sky is a bruised, violent purple. The ocean is churning with 30-foot swells. The wind is howling at 60 knots, physically shaking the massive steel support columns. You are the last crew on the rig. You finish capping the well. You sprint toward the cantilevering helipad. The rain is driving sideways like heavy buckshot. The final helicopter approaches. It is fighting desperately against the massive wind shear. The pilot manages a terrifyingly hard landing. You dive into the cabin. The helicopter immediately lifts off, pitching violently in the storm. You look out the window as the rig disappears into the massive squall line. The overwhelming power of the ocean makes the multi-million-dollar steel island look incredibly frail. You sit silently during the incredibly turbulent flight back to the mainland, gripping the webbing tightly. You realize that despite all the advanced technology, the heavy steel, and the massive hydraulic power, you are operating entirely at the mercy of the elements. The ocean merely tolerates your presence, and it can revoke that tolerance instantly, without warning or prejudice. Level 10, the dock. 26 years offshore. You reach the final tour. The body is a ledger, and your career was paid for in absolute mechanical breakdown. You have profound, permanent hearing loss in both ears from decades of standing next to roaring diesel generators and heavy top drives. Your knees are entirely bone-on-bone from walking miles on hard steel gratings. You have 2 compressed lumbar discs that throb heavily when the weather changes. You suffer from severe carpal tunnel syndrome in both hands from swinging massive iron tongs in your 20s. Your marriage, miraculously, survived. But the transition to full-time civilian life is aggressively difficult. You wake up at Home Depot at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. The silence of the suburbs is incredibly unnerving. You instinctively step entirely over small puddles in the driveway, your brain permanently wired to avoid slipping on slick synthetic drilling mud. You look at the heavy machinery on construction sites and casually calculate their hydraulic failure tolerances. Are you enjoying having him home full-time? Your neighbor asks your spouse at a quiet backyard barbecue. Your spouse looks at you. You are staring vacantly at the swimming pool, lost in a memory of a violent North Sea squall. It's an adjustment, your spouse says softly, deeply understanding the complex haunting of the retired offshore worker. He's still trying to get off the rig. On a quiet afternoon, you drive alone to the industrial port docks in Galveston. You get out of your truck. You lean against the heavy concrete seawall. You look out at the incredibly vast, slate-gray ocean. You spent your entire life in an alien, hostile environment, fighting the immense pressure of the earth and the violent chaos of the sea. You survived the iron jaws of the drill floor, the terrifying heights of the derrick, and the suffocating isolation of the 21-day hitch. The offshore life took the cartilage from your knees and half of your terrestrial memories. But it also gave you a profound, quiet understanding of massive, terrifying scale that civilians will never comprehend. You stand by the water as the wind picks up off the Gulf. You smell the heavy salt air mixed with distant diesel exhaust. You close your eyes. You listen to the sound of the waves violently striking the concrete seawall, feeling the vibration shudder through the rock beneath your boots. It reminds you heavily of the deck plates trembling under the massive diesel generators. You will always be listening for the incoming roar of the offshore chopper.